It had its own entrance, but Sheila went straight to the front door, which she opened with a key. Entering the rather gloomy hall, she took off her raincoat and hung it on the hall stand. She could faintly hear distant noises of pots and pans, but the kitchen was down a long corridor leading past the stairs, where the cook-housekeeper, Mrs. Cropley, was no doubt making lunch. The first door on the left, which had been the lounge, was now her sister's sick room, as for some months she had been incapable of climbing the stairs. In fact, for several weeks she had been unable to leave her bed, except to be helped onto a commode by the nurses or members of the family. Sheila turned the knob and walked in, familiar with the dim light penetrating the partly closed blinds. A hospital bed was against one wall, with a locker on one side and the commode on the other. She walked across the room, her heels clicking on the parquet floor. "How are you today, dear?" she asked gently, but was not surprised to get no reply from the still shape in the bed. Mary was now on twice-daily doses of morphine to alleviate the pain in her bones from secondary tumours, and much of the time she was either asleep or in a state of near stupor from the drug. When she reached the side of the bed, Sheila stood looking down at her sister. Though not a woman given to emotion or dispensing much of the milk of human kindness, her eyes blurred with sadness and compassion, for this was her sister. Though they had never been all that close, mainly due to Sheila's rather flinty nature, Mary was all the family she had left, and to see her fading away in this pathetic fashion wrenched even her lukewarm heart. She whispered her name again, not wanting to wake her if she was sound asleep, but again there was no response. Sheila gently laid her fingers on Mary's hand, which was lying palm up on the coverlet. It was then that she noticed that there was a bead of blood in the crook of her elbow. Both arms had a number of needle marks, as painkillers had been given frequently for the past few weeks, but this one looked very recent. There was a kidney dish on the locker containing some lint swabs, and the fastidious pharmacist took one and gently wiped away the dribble of blood. "That's better, Mary," she said softly, but then looked more closely at her sister's face as she lay on the pillow. Her eyes were half open, but they were fixed and sightless. Sheila was not a nurse or a doctor, but she had worked in the dispensary of a London hospital during the wartime Blitz, and knew death when she saw it. At first, almost rigid with shock, she rapidly recovered and felt for a pulse in the wrist and then the neck to confirm that life had ebbed away. Though she was quite sure that her sister was dead, she realized that a doctor should be called immediately and hurried out of the room. Back in the hall, she brushed away a haze of tears with the back of her hand and turned down a passage that went across to an internal door into the veterinary annex. As soon as she went through it, she was in the waiting room, lined with a collection of hard chairs, now empty as the next surgery was not until the late afternoon. Another door led into Samuel Parker's examination room, and as she burst in, she urgently called out his name. He was not there, but she could hear the sounds of a dog barking and water running. Yet another doorway led to several more rooms containing animal cages, an operating table, and all the paraphernalia of a vet's practice. "Samuel, quickly!" she cried out urgently. "Where are you?" "Coming, just washing my hands. What is it?" He appeared in the doorway, rubbing his hands on a towel. A tall, stooping man, Samuel Parker was in his late 40s, his dark hair forming a prominent widow's peak on his forehead. "Mary! It's Mary! I've just been in there and I think she's dead." His long face, normally ruddy from working outdoors, instantly blanched. Without a word to her, he rushed from the room, the doors crashing open as he ran towards his wife's bedroom. Sheila suddenly felt dizzy, overpowered by the suddenness of events, and she leaned on the zinc-topped examination table where clients presented their cats and dogs. In spite of the urgency of the situation, as the room stopped spinning, her eyes focused on some objects near her supporting hand. There was a used syringe, an open box of glass vials, and a bottle half full of a colourless liquid. An experienced pharmacist, she automatically glanced at the labels.